Hello, everybody, and welcome to Brunch with Bigfoot and Michigan Rob, along with, in Studio B, my lovely co-host, Krista from the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast. We have a great show. Heather Moser joins us today. Can't wait to get this show started. If this is your first time here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Give a thumbs up. Hit the alert bell, share us out to friends, and anybody you think would be interested. You can find us again on YouTube at Bigfoot Michigan Rob. You can find us also Texas Front Porch, the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast. We're also on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, wherever podcasts are found, including KPNL Radio with the lovely Selene out in Oregon. Thanks for that, Ann. Don't forget, if you like what we have to offer, the Super Chat's open. Yes, the Super Chat's open. A great way to help support what we do around here long after the show ends. So is the Super Thanks. Don't forget, you can check out our About pages to find out about all scheduled events and what we have going on throughout the week, because we do much more than just live shows. We're all involved in the community, and we offer everything for all of our fabulous audience and guests out there. Speaking also, what we happen to do is, we've got a nice feature of shows throughout the week. Again, we stream on separate channels, so if you're not subscribed to any of these folks, please do so. Fantastic shows. On Mondays, it is Texas Front Porch. That is on Mondays at 9 o'clock in the East. On Tuesday is Van Buren Variety. He comes on at 8 o'clock in the East. Back with me on Tuesday at 9 o'clock in the East is called Beyond BMR. Come check me out Tuesday nights. Jason McLean does something on Mysterious Library on Untold Radio AM. Go check out Jason on that show on Wednesdays at 10. Also, Jason, that's Tuesday for Jason. But Wednesday, and Jason also has Jason McLean Questions Everything. Go check out Jason and Donnie Show. Subscribe to them. Thursday, right back here, Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. That comes on at 1 o'clock in the East. Tonight, and 9 of these is the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. Please subscribe and check them out. If you need a little more woo with the booze, you got the Blondes, the Booze, and the Woo Fridays at 9 in the East. I skipped something. Wednesdays is Danielle Diva, the Diva Dimension with Texas Front Porch. Please check that one out. Saturday, I'm going to skip ahead to Saturday. I already did the Blondes on Friday. Saturday is Infamous Minds, Texas Front Porch. Please check out Tex. That's an outstanding show if you're into true crime. And, of course, I always have to mention my lovely friend Jessica Jones on Spaced Out Radio. You can find her Saturday and Sunday, 10 in the East. You can also find her on the Cryptid Hunt just throughout the week. So with that being said, we're going to get right into it. I'm going to bring up Krista. Hey, Krista.
Hey, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I was talking a little earlier. I'm thinking if I freeze up, I think I might be needing a new camera.
Mm-hmm.
It's only been a year old, but, I bought one of those $40 ones. And now maybe the 12 months, maybe it's worth only 12 months. It serves me right for being a little cheap. So maybe I'm going to have to, break out the pocketbook and double up the paint, get an $80 one.
Right.
I guess. I don't know. We'll see what happens today. I always blame it on the weather or the internet, but enough complaining about that, So
yeah,
what are you going to do?
Move on.
Thanks for everybody for filling up the chat room already. I love and appreciate each and every single one of you. Thanks for coming on in. And we're going to get into it because I got Heather for about the first 52 minutes because she's got another commitment to do right after this. But 1 hour of Heather is better than no Heather. And we're going to bring her up. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Hey.
Hi.
Hey, Heather.
Hi.
Thanks for coming on and gracing us today.
Hmm.
Thanks for having me.
Been
Not
looking
a
forward to
problem.
this.
Not a problem. Again, you got an hour with us, and I do appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. And for those that don't know, Heather Moser, yeah, you're with Small Town Monsters, but you're also a writer, a producer. You do so many things. If you'd like to, for our audience who might not be familiar with you, just give us a little background before we get it rolling.
For Small Town Monsters, I'm a researcher and producer for our documentaries, which means that I find witnesses, do the research, the backstory, things like that, and help get schedules set up for whenever we're filming. As you said, I'm also a writer, so I have short stories out there, some fiction, some nonfiction. I've been in the Feminine Macabre volumes 1, 3, and 5. Um, yeah, we also just launched, I say just launched, it's been about a year now, uh, almost a year anniversary of STM Publishing. We have 3 books currently out, and the latest one is by Aaron Deese about the Texas Dogman Triangle.
Hmm.
We
Ooh.
also have one that covers Kinderhook and one that covers The Veggie Man, which is a children's book, by the way. It's super cute.
Now, did you
Um,
say Veggie Man?
yeah, Veggie Man.
Oh,
He's a West
okay.
Virginia cryptid,
Oh,
more
okay.
alien-like, I suppose.
Mm,
And
really?
yeah, yeah, he's not as famous as other West Virginia cryptids like Mothman or Flatwoods, of course, but he's still worth knowing.
Right.
I
Absolutely.
Um,
I think yes. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the vegetable, although I do have a nice garden in the backyard. But yeah, I'm one of those guys. Yeah, as that's just because I don't know. I think most guys, they can pass on the vegetables. I think. However, not going to pass on this book. If you want to give us a little, if once you give us a little, tell us a little bit about that because I am fascinated by that. If you care to, if
okay,
you can.
so the Veg Man book, it's a children's book. It's illustrated by Bally Raven, who's a wonderful artist, written by Michael David Strayer. Um, and it just tells the story about Veggie Man coming to our planet, and he's hungry. He needs fed. Um, and then he has to go about doing that, which perhaps may be a little scary for some children,
Yeah.
but it's still done tastefully.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
good
Pun
play on words,
intended, I
Heather.
suppose.
Yeah, yeah, good
Yeah.
play on words, yeah.
But it's just Veggie Man coming to Earth, coming to West Virginia, and then leaving after he is able to refuel. And the illustrations are really what knock it out of the park, I think. Valerie Raven's an amazing artist, so
Wow. Very cool. So I'm assuming Veggie Man eats like peas and broccoli and stuff like that to get refueled. Maybe.
not quite, not
No,
quite.
Okay.
he
Yeah,
probably eats humans after they just had a nice garden feast. As she puts her
yeah,
hand to her mouth, that's probably part of it, I'm guessing now.
that's
Oh,
that's closer to it. Yeah.
okay.
Ah.
And I
Well,
do
I
like the
look forward to reading that myself.
yeah, and I like books with illustrations as
Mhm.
well. There's some
Mhm.
books you just get into and read them, and it's funny because I like a book though that has some cool illustrations throughout it because it just kind of
Mhm.
keeps you more, into it. And I think I find I pay more attention. It seems because I'll read a book sometimes, and after 3 or 4 chapters, I'll be reading it, but then my mind kind of wanders. It just always does anyway. But if you have some
Yeah.
visuals in it, I think it keeps you more in touch. So I think it's a great idea. So I can't wait for that to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's out. That's our second, or no, that was our first book that we released actually, just in time for Cryptid Bash, um, for the Moth Boys Cryptid Bash. So it's been out, and yeah, like I said, we have the Kinderhook Creature and Beyond, a personal reminiscence by Bruce G. Hallenbeck. Um, and then we have Aaron Deese's Dogman Triangle book that came out, and it accompanies the documentary that just came out. So yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
Gosh, you guys have a lot going in the fire there, don't you? You guys are busy people.
yep, yes, Yes, we are.
Yeah,
But
so
it's
this
fun. It's a
show,
blast.
yeah, so this show is kind of like I told you backstage, we're open ended. You're our guest, and is there anything you want to get started with? You want to talk a little bit about the newer projects, or is there any? Is everybody likes to hear, and now you are a storyteller, fact and fiction. I get it.
Mhm.
So, is there anything off the top of your mind you'd like to share with us to get this party started?
Well, the most pressing thing, which because the meeting that I have directly after this is tied to this, but tonight at 7 p.m. we have a live stream for
Mhm.
Small Town Monsters that'll be available on YouTube and Facebook, announcing uh, what's coming next year. So um, I can't get into details right now since we're going to be announcing that later as far
Mhm.
as what's coming up next year, but I can say that I think people are going to be pretty excited. And as far as what's coming this year, what we have left to put out is American Werewolves 2, which we filmed out in New Mexico. We
Wow.
have Cryptid Chupacabra, which is a Kickstarter exclusive film that'll be coming out. And then we have On the Trail of Bigfoot, The Origin, which we filmed up in British Columbia. So,
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's
Well,
yeah.
really
you're very busy. So hey, again, I
Mhm.
appreciate you coming out with everything you've got going on. So you mentioned Dogman, right? And we don't
Yes.
have to get into the new things. I know you want to save that, but off the top of your head, because I know that over the last several years, you're involved in the writing, the research, the production, and you've
Mhm.
on Small Town Monsters, and you also used to do a you interviewed people on your show. I don't know if it still goes on, but I
Yeah.
always watched that and tuned in.
Mhm.
So let
Oh,
me ask
thanks.
you right off the you're welcome. And right off the get, what you don't have to necessarily have had an experience with Dogman, but what's your initial reaction and thoughts to all these stories that you get? I mean, is that something that freaks you out, or do you think it exists? What do you think?
I don't question that it exists. As far as what it is, I don't know. Um, I thankfully have not had an experience with Dogman, and I will be fine if I go the rest of my life without one. Um, Everybody that I have talked to so far, it, it's not a good thing. It's not a good
Right.
feeling that you have. It's yeah, dread and doom and terror, even if it's not something that's particularly aggressive. I have um one of my friends we interviewed for Skinwalker Howl of the Rougarou. Her story wasn't nearly as aggressive as some other stories where the creature that she described looked more like Anubis showed up in her room and kind of warned her to put back some artifacts that she had taken, some native artifacts. So he was more protective in that way, and he only spoke with her like telepathically, but still, I mean, he instilled fear in her. She put stuff back, right? She didn't question him, or it, I guess I should say. But then you have the absolutely terrifying encounters where they're far more aggressive, or they're pacing somebody as they're taking a jog. Um, and I would just rather not ever. I mean,
Mhm.
I already have issues with big dogs, just
Okay.
personally, since I was a little girl. Big dogs do scare me, so I can't imagine one that's like standing on two legs and is seven
Right.
feet tall. Um, just instantly knowing that that thing could kill you if it wanted to, I'd rather
Mhm.
just not.
You bring up a good point because I take in a lot of stories from people that are subscribers or emails, and I've gotten a lot of Bigfoot stories. I've gotten a lot of Dogman, and I've got to tell you, the Dogman stories that I've come across, to your point, is this: it's always something where they feel dread. I mean, almost all the emails I read or when I talk with people off air, that feeling of dread, like I've had stories of the dog man running up on the side of a car and kind
Uh-huh.
of looking inside and literally
Yeah.
looking at the passenger. And his dog man has this weird way to manipulate his face and like give you that a grin or a smile. Thank
Yeah.
you, no, for that super chat. And yeah, it's just nothing but dread. Then they take off and they give you that look like, you know what, I could eat you right now if I wanted
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, that was we just had we were just at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot conference, and there was a man that came up and spoke with me. He was nervous about sharing his story, but
Hmm.
he had had a Dogman encounter, and I sent him over to Martin because I said, listen, Martin will help ease your mind about what you've experienced, if there's such a way to ease your mind, but at least let you know you're
Sure.
not alone, right? But the way that he described it, it was a situation where it came up on the side of the truck, but he said the teeth, it's, it showed its teeth,
Right.
but he said that it wasn't, it was more reminiscent of a shark's mouth, as nasty as the teeth were. It wasn't so much canine in the way that it looked. It looked more like a shark, which is even more terrifying than how I had it in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that's scary stuff.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with you. I would be okay if I don't ever see a dog man. You do hear stories of Sasquatch, helping people, or you hear nice stories. They're not all terrible. However,
Yeah.
dogmen, I'm like you. I don't think I've ever heard a positive dogman story.
I can't think of one, at least not yet.
I have
Yeah.
not come across any. I've been doing this about 2 years, and I started collecting stories last year and a half, perhaps. Not one has been good. I mean,
Mhm.
there's a story about a dog man that killed a man's dog.
Mhm.
And they always, I always get the stories about them invading their chicken coops, killing the chickens, not even eating them, just happily, like they're doing it because they enjoy it. And again,
Right.
for those of you people that really love Dogman and think it's a nice little animal in the forest, I'm going to politely disagree with you because I've yet to get a good story. I mean, they
I would.
make for good entertainment and fodder, right? But man, I'm with you, Heather and Krista. Don't know that I'd want to see one. The only person I've come across, and Tex, Heather, because he actually was in something that you guys put out. He's the only one who really didn't have that, like, oh my God, I'm gonna never go in the woods again type feeling. Text is
Mhm.
text, but other than that, I've heard terrible ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my thing is too, like, I still go back to the LBL and hope to have that encounter, but do I really want to, or don't I? Who knows?
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. Scary stuff.
It is
Very.
scary stuff. And before we move on to a question I got, what's your take, too? Because again, you've been involved for a long time, and I like picking people's brains. What's your thought, especially in Ohio? See, Heather, where you live in Ohio, right?
Yes.
And I live in Michigan. And I know that Ohio, and I'm not sure the section of Ohio you live in, but that's a pretty predominantly, you get a lot of reports from Bigfoot in Ohio. And I know you guys do a lot of the investigations. In fact, I think that's where the cabin is. I could be wrong, but I think I'm right.
Yes.
What's your, have you ever seen, got a hint or a glimpse of one? But what's your thoughts in general? Do you guys get a lot of reports where you live?
So I live in Minerva, so home of the
The
Minerva
Minerva
Monster.
Monster. Yeah.
Yeah. And yes, there seems to be a lot of reports. I will say that what we've noticed is that the reports are almost a direct reflection of how active some of the drilling is in the area, or the pipelines in the area. So right now, the reports seem to be died down a little bit, but there's been more pipeline work. Uh,
Hmm.
the same thing happened several years ago when they first came into the county and started drilling. Everything kind of died down a little bit, but then after a while, it comes back. Um, but yeah, it's a pretty active area. Yeah, this is where the cabin is. I haven't seen anything,
Yeah.
but I have heard them. Um, I've heard them running around when Seth was here filming. The one, like, I think it was the first night he was here filming, we could hear them running around us. Like, it seemed like they were messing with us, because as soon as
Hmm.
you turn one way, then they'd be the other, they'd be behind you. Um, we've had rocks thrown, we've heard the howls, we've heard the whistles. Now, none of that has happened recently, but like I said, there's been a lot of activity with pipelines.
Hmm.
Um, but I definitely, uh, again, not questioning their existence. And Seth had a visual sighting here at the farm. Um, Unfortunately, I wasn't there at the time that he had it, but he had a sighting. So
And
something has been seen
that was
here.
on one of your shows, if I remember correctly. I think I
Yeah,
watched it. Yeah.
yeah, that was on the Bigfoot Project, which is available on
Hmm.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I definitely love your channel, what you do. I watch when I can, and it's
I do
usually
too.
replays. And but it's not unusual though for you to say, because I know when I talk to certain people, they might have come across like howls, whoops. They might have had what they thought a visualization where it could have been a Bigfoot, certainly a
Mhm.
big shadow. We hear a lot about the shadows cast 8, 9, 10 foot tall, and it has a humanoid look. But they might get them randomly. They might have a couple months where they're just thinking there's something strange going on. But it's not that uncommon either for that to stop for like a year, 12 months, 18 months. And then they kind of forget about it. But then all of a sudden, the people that are persistent and still research those areas, then they find it again. So I'm just wondering, they probably travel all over, especially where we live. There's a lot of weird stuff going on, both paranormal and cryptid.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing. We had Cliff out here for a little bit, and just looking at the farm from his vast experience of researching Bigfoot, um, he was kind of surprised that we were even having activity at the farm. It's not that there aren't woods around because we have plenty of woods. It's just it's not as dense as other places like in the Pacific Northwest or whatnot. But I took him to the woods where I grew up, or behind where I grew up, and that seemed, he's like, this is it. This is more of a place where they would be. But just the fact that even Cliff was like, I'm not sure that this is, this doesn't quite make sense, made us wonder if we didn't just happen to catch them like at just the right time, I guess, so to
Right.
speak, is that if they were just
Mhm.
moving through the area in that moment and it just happened to be when we were
Mhm.
aware. And then, like I said, with all the drilling and digging and stuff now, I don't know how that would, I would assume that that would cause them to not be around as much, but
Sure.
um, I guess we just wait and we see.
Hmm.
You know, and it's so funny. I think maybe the drilling and the digging, yeah, they just kind of
Hmm. Do you
evacuate
guys
the area.
in Ohio, do you guys have caves? Because I hear a lot of reports where, people believe that they follow cave systems as well.
Yeah, we do. Um, we absolutely have them. There's no, as far as I'm aware of, there's no really large ones in this
Hmm.
area, but there are lots of smaller ones. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Um, okay, you talked about, yeah, like Cliff was talking about how it's not very dense there. I got to tell you something, Heather and everyone listening, Krista. I have a very good friend of mine who I trust in the Bigfoot world, right? He was in Nebraska. Now, when I think Nebraska, because a job that I had many, many years ago, I was a salesperson and I was driving through Nebraska and it was nothing but cornfields. And it was such a boring. I'm sorry if anybody lives in Nebraska, your state's boring.
So
Nothing
it's
but
Kansas. So
cornfields and
it's
mesas. I mean, I apologize.
Kansas.
I love you if you live there, but don't want to be living there. So I'm thinking, wow, this is just flatlands. And so about 2 or 3 months ago, my buddy sends me a picture because Nebraska puts on a Bigfoot conference. I'm like, Nebraska? There ain't no Bigfoot in Nebraska. Sends me a picture of a legitimate print on his vehicle, on his truck, of a hand, which was not human. The thumb was like, way down, like where our wrist is. And it wasn't an ape. It wasn't anything like that. Very similar to the print that Tex has on his vehicle in Brown Springs, right? And I'm like, wow, it was there. And he went out, then he went out looking. And sure enough, there is some woods in the area but there's quite a distance from where his truck was.
Mhm.
And he actually heard some noises that remind whoops. He goes, man. So I'm thinking Bigfoot's anywhere. If you got water,
Yeah.
if you travel these
Mm-hmm.
power lines, I mean, they're everywhere. They're in all the states.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. I
Oh yeah.
agree.
Yeah, we've even when we've been interviewing people for the documentaries, there have been sightings of Bigfoot just by dumpsters in
Yeah.
town because I mean it's easy food
Mm-hmm.
access, right?
Hey,
Um,
Heather, I'm sorry. You're a little. You might get a little closer to the mic, perhaps, because you're kind of
okay,
fading just a little bit.
is this
Yeah, I'm
better?
sorry. Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. Okay,
Now we can see your
hold on.
big, pretty face. And I don't mean big. I mean
Ah,
cool. It's pretty. There you go.
no, you said it. It's fun. No, I'm just kidding.
I know.
Um, uh, yeah, no, just saying that we've had stories of Bigfoot being around like dumpsters in
Mm-hmm.
areas where there's trash, just like you would with a bear or something,
Sure.
easy food sources. So,
Yeah. I believe they can be anywhere because, Bigfoot, Dogman, any of them, because I've heard of reports. I'm in Missouri, I'm outside of St. Louis, and there's a report of Dogman seen down at the St. Louis Arch. That's downtown St. Louis, so that
that's
blows me away.
terrifying.
Yeah. So I believe they can be anywhere, I don't care if you live in the country or if you live in the suburbs.
Hmm.
Make sure your children are in before dark.
Absolutely.
And that'd be a way to. Yeah, I'd hate to live like that. If you knew you
Mhm.
had Dogman on your property and you got a nice parcel of land and you
Right.
seen one of these things that I don't know if I was married with young kids, I would probably have to move just because of especially knowing what I know today. The
Mhm.
average Joe that doesn't follow any things that we do, because half the people in the world think we're all weird anyway, which I
Mhm.
embrace the weirdness. So, hey, it is what it is. You'd have to move, I would think.
Yeah. You know, when I grew up, my dad always lived in the country, and he used to tell me, "Oh, there's nothing out here that'll hurt you. It's safer than the cities." And I know he was talking about living human beings.
Right.
However, now, after doing this for so long, man, I don't know. I think I'd be better off walking downtown or something than being out in some of these woods.
I don't know. I would be more concerned out in the woods running into a stranger though
Yeah.
than
Yep.
No, hey, you know
than an
what?
animal.
No, I've said this many times. Chris has said it. A lot of people I talk to, and it's unfortunate that you have to say this,
Hmm.
but the human being is our biggest enemy in the woods,
It's true.
Mhm.
or even the stray bullet from a hunter.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Or you have, your local druggies out there doing their thing, or,
Well,
as in
like,
some other shows I've seen, you know?
Krista, we're Texas got everything, and I guess Brown Springs always you always make a comment. He's got the paranormal, he's got the dog man, he's got the Bigfoot,
Mhm.
and he's got the meth heads, and he's
Yep.
got tigers. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
you
Right.
know,
That's crazy. Yep. At least we don't have that here in Missouri.
yeah.
No
Well, we
tiger.
have the Black Panther in Michigan, which I've yet to see. However, usually it's every fall there's somebody shoots a video of a Black Panther in the state of Michigan,
Mhm.
and they say it's the same one. Well, I mean, first of all, I don't know if there's a Black Panther in Michigan, although we've got wolves up north and such, but yet to see that. I think that's more of a myth.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like I don't think Ohio has wolves, right, Heather?
No, not that I'm aware of. We've got coyotes everywhere though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you've seen something that was an oversized wolf in Ohio, that's definitely a dog man,
Right.
or allegedly.
It would throw up some red flags,
Yeah,
probably.
I'd be a little,
Yeah.
hey Duke. So Heather. So when I put this out, I did some advertising on this show a couple days ago, and I got a lot of people commenting, send me some messages. You have to have Heather talk about the Bell Witch. You've probably spoke about it ad nauseum, but I am one with my people, the audience. So to appease them,
Yeah.
yes, that a little bit.
Before you start jumping on the Bell Witch, let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
So I had told you, I think backstage when I was at the LBO with Martin Groves telling his story, his encounter. Well, after that, he started talking about the Bell Witch, and I don't know if he's ever told you this or not, but supposedly you talk about her and she can curse you or do things to you, even not being there. And I'm telling you, there was 10 people as my witness. He had a log fall on his leg. Seriously. So is that true? You know, before we get really hot and heavy deep in it, are we all getting cursed?
I
Or
think
was
I
that
think
just
we'll
a
be
freak
fine.
that Martin
I
Groves had?
think I think we'll be fine. But yeah, the idea is that she can curse you, and that you definitely don't question her power. So like we have you say Bloody Mary so many times in the mirror, and Bloody Mary appears down in Tennessee near Adams. They have, if you go to the mirror and you say, I don't believe in the Bell Witch, so many times that she'll appear and curse you.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, but um, it's an old story and one that still drives tourism in the area today.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it is in summary from 1817 to 1821, there was a spirit, an entity, something that we now call the Bell Witch that terrorized the Bell family. They had moved to Robertson County from North Carolina, and everything seemed okay at first, and then weird stuff started happening, such as John Bell, the father, saw this dog dog with a rabbit's head out in the wood or out in the field, which then just disappeared. The boys were seeing large birds. Everybody started hearing like scratching on the walls of the cabin, and then there was the sound of gnawing on the
Mm-hmm.
bedposts. And of course, once they would light the lanterns, there's nothing there to be seen.
Wow.
Bed sheets would get pulled off the bed. Eventually, it gets to a point that they invited a neighbor over to kind of, I guess, verify that there's something going on. It's not just them imagining things. And when the neighbor comes over and this starts up, he kind of demands that this thing explain itself. And at that point, it starts talking. And it
Wow.
started out as a whisper and then got to a point where it was communicating. But the Bell Witch was never really clear as to what she was. She gave all kinds of stories as to what she was and why she was there. But the biggest thing was that she said she wanted to kill John Bell, which ultimately she does, um, because on December 20th of 1820, John Bell doesn't wake up, and they find assuming a bottle of poison halfway gone by his bed, and the witch, who was never really seen, you could just always hear her voice, started laughing and said she finally fixed him.
Wow.
Um, but and she sang during his funeral and everything. She was really proud of herself. She also didn't like his daughter, Betsy Bell, and she made sure that Betsy wasn't able to be with the love of her life. Basically threatened that if she stayed with the person that she wanted to marry, that he would end up just like her dad.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so yeah, but she hangs around until about 1821. Then she says she'll be back in 7 years. She disappears. She comes back in 7 years and talks to John Bell Jr. and kind of gives some prophecies, um, like Nostradamus type stuff, I guess, about what's to come, talking about wars that are upcoming and so on. And then she disappeared again, said she'd be back in, I believe, 107 years. And as far as we know, she never made an appearance like that. Um, but the idea is that, like today, if you go to Adams, you can go visit the cave that was on the former Bell property,
Mhm.
and the cave plays into the story from one of the children getting stuck while they were playing in there, and some unseen force like yanks the child out to free them, and then
Oh wow.
summarily tells them how stupid they were for getting stuck because she had a sense of humor and was also a little sassy. Um, and anyway, you can go visit that cave now, and there are letters on the walls of the gift shop where you buy your ticket to go into the cave. That letters from people from the 90s up through now saying that don't take the rocks from the cave. I did, and then my life fell apart, and they're mailing the rocks back. Like these letters came with rocks.
Wow.
Um, and that story has kind of permeated beyond just the rocks at this point. There are other things people have taken from just atoms in general, not just the cave, and then things go poorly and then they send it back to atoms to try to get rid of the curse. But yeah, so
Wow.
that's what got me into the story, was the idea of cursed objects and letters that
Mhm.
accompany cursed objects. That's
Mm.
how I found the Bell Witch.
Did you
Wow.
hear? I got a story on cursed objects. I don't think I'm going to get into that one today. But I heard some things about the Bell Witches. Did she? This could be wrong. This is. I'm coming. I heard this on some show I was listening to several months ago. But did the Bell Witch cast a curse on certain regiments during the Civil War that were in and about fighting on the property?
So I do not recall hearing anything like that. There is a story where General Andrew Jackson had came to the farm because he had heard about this, and some of the Bell boys had actually served with him
Okay.
um, in previous battles. But so he came and he supposedly saw, like, he brought a guy who said that he was a witch hunter and he could handle the witch, and that guy ends up running out of there crying because he
Oh,
couldn't
okay.
really handle the witch. But as far as during the Civil War, I have not really heard that, no.
Okay. Well, when you mentioned Andrew Jackson, that rings a bell. I could have been, off a century or two or a few, several hundred years, but I just wanted to, bring it up since since you're bringing up the story, and I was always intrigued by that. I remember listening to that like 6 months
Mhm.
ago, and it was fascinating tale.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, yeah, she's entertaining.
Do you believe she's still there?
Um, yeah, I believe something is still there. I don't know what I don't know what she was.
Mhm.
Because I'm not sure if it was just like one entity or multiple entities.
Sure.
Uh, when she first starts talking, I mean, there's a distinctive, they know that it's this entity that's speaking, but she has the ability to mimic voices.
Mhm.
So she could sound just like you or me without a problem. But then later on, when we get closer to John Bell's death in the timeline, there's something that shows up that it's my favorite part of the story. It's called the Witch Family. And there were four distinct voices that would talk. You couldn't see them, but you could hear them. And they would, it was like a family. They would bicker and carry on. Um, and they were all very distinct in that they were different entities. So either she was throwing her voice for four different people for whatever, or there were multiple things there. But the idea at the cave now is that, and I'm sure it's not a new thought, but the
Mhm.
idea with the cave is that it's almost like a portal situation. There are native burial all around it, above the cave, that predate um, like written records. Um, so I think it's very possible that there are just multiple things that come and go.
Mhm.
I have
Sure.
no idea why she would have targeted the Bell family, or John Bell in particular. I
Mhm.
still have no idea as to why that would be. But yeah, I think there's still stuff there because there's still things happening. Um, yeah.
Okay. Well, we've talked a little bit about the Bell Witch. We've talked a little bit about small town monsters. So, what about Heather? You are the guest. What have you know, and you're a great storyteller. I know you've had some experiences. I don't know personally. I'm guessing you have. So, if you can give us a couple stories and one of some of the creepier things you've come across personally in your investigations.
Well, one story that will always come to mind as far as something that really just blew my mind and I have no explanation for would be whenever we were doing an investigation at Mansfield Reformatory in Ohio, which is where Shawshank Redemption was filmed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
we had been given a tour. We were actually filming a very short-lived show that STM did called On the Trail of Hauntings.
Okay.
And after the filming, then the group that I would go out with at the time to do investigations, we were given like free reign of Mansfield for the night. And
Wow.
there were four of us left in that entire prison. It was amazing. But during the filming, we went through and we had gotten a tour and heard some of the stories that, I mean, you ordinarily wouldn't hear unless you're taking a paranormal tour through the prison. And one of the stories involved the West Attic, which when Mansfield Reformatory was in operation, there was a brief period of time where the West Attic, which was not intended to be a holding area at all, it was temporarily used as a holding area because the Ohio Penitentiary down in Columbus suffered a massive fire and burned down, and they needed to move some of these serious criminals
Mm-hmm.
somewhere. So they kind of split them up, and they sent some of these hardened criminals to Mansfield Reformatory and just shoved them all in the West Attic, which is just one big open room. It's not a bunch of cells or anything. So the idea is that things were more violent, not that things didn't get violent in the reformatory itself, but things were more violent in the area where you had these more dangerous criminals kind of locked together. Anyway, today, when you go into this room, there are no windows. It is in the middle of the building. If you walk all the way in, all the way down to the back, people have chairs set up because this is something that happens a lot. Sit down, turn around, and face the way that you came in. It's completely dark. You just sit and you wait. And eventually you will start to see spook lights that pop up. They're all different colors. That
Wow.
alone, I was going to be excited
Hey,
about.
Heather, are spook
Yeah,
lights from ghosts? Is that like, I think of ghosts when you say that, or is that anything?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it can be, I think it can be a different things, but in this particular instance, it would be a spirit.
Okay.
Um, uh, so that's something that this area is known for. You sit there and you see different colored spook lights, ghost lights pop up and move around the room. That I was going to be excited enough about because it's always cool to see just random lights flitting about that seem to interact a little bit whenever you ask them to. But what happened on this is that the lights were bouncing around the room, and then all of a sudden there was this um, light being like on the floor, walking back and forth. So the best way that I can describe it is if you've seen a shadow person, but it's light instead of shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Wow.
and it was clearly, I mean, a person on two legs, you could see the arms, everything, and it was just walking back and forth. And when it would get close to the wall or any of the cross beams that went across the middle of the room, it had emitted enough light that you could see the wall. So
Wow.
it wasn't like blinding or anything. And when we put our phones out, it wasn't showing up on the cameras, which I have an iPhone, which is crap at night anyway. But it wasn't showing up on what we had. But it was walking back and forth, and then it would come closer to us, and then it would drop down on all fours and crawl at us, which I'm not a fan of.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I didn't like that. But it would never like come. It would only come within so many feet, and then it would back up. So eventually we got up and we started walking toward it, and it would just back away. Um, but it was just something. It was something that we were able to repeat multiple times throughout the night. We came back two or three different times,
Mm-hmm.
different hours. And sure enough, it wouldn't be there when you first walked in, but you'd sit there for a few minutes and then it would show up. And I have no explanation for that. I've never seen anything like it since. I would love to see it again, but it was one of the moments where I was absolutely terrified and I wasn't feeling like it was threatening.
Yeah.
It
Mm-hmm.
was just the fact that this thing exists and I'm seeing it and I wasn't the only one seeing it. We were all in equal shock there. That that just the kind of shaking that you're cold, you know, that's what was happening with me at the time.
Mm.
Wow.
So that would be one of my I guess scarier stories, even though I wasn't like terrified, it was still I was terrified, but not in a bad way. I didn't feel like Dogman was coming to eat me or anything like that. I was
No,
just
that is
terrified that it
still
exists.
chilling. That is still chilling and terrifying. Chris, if you want to ask her a question too, because I got somebody rapping at my back door. I think it's my lawn guy. I'll be back
Yeah.
in about 30 seconds.
Okay, sounds good. I do have a question for you. Do you do mainly like, big places, haunted locations that people do, or do you ever do private cases, to help the local family in need?
So I would love to do private things. I don't think enough people know around here that I would be willing to do that for that to be a thing yet.
Yeah.
I've gone to places that are not as well known, and I prefer those better than the bigger locations, actually.
Hmm.
There's more
Yeah.
character to it.
Me
Um,
too. Well, the reason I
yeah,
ask is because I enjoy the home cases. I enjoy helping people. And if you're open to something like that, because we get people message us all the time all over the United States. So, if I get someone in Ohio, I mean,
yeah, let me know.
send them your way, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be cool. The closest thing is that the group that I used to go out with when we would go to these various locations,
Hmm.
there was a family member that was having stuff happen in their home, and so we went there, but it was just for a few hours the one night, and we should have followed up on it. We just haven't yet.
Yeah.
But there were things happening, and even
Hmm.
in an old farmhouse, and I don't know.
Sure.
To me, that's more exciting than.
Yeah.
Although it's
I,
hard to not love being in a place like Mansfield Reformatory because the building is gorgeous.
yeah,
Um,
I
and that
understand.
alone is impressive. But yeah, the smaller places, the lesser known places
Hmm.
that's where I'm
Yeah.
really excited about.
That's how I am. And I like being like, a lot of these private cases, their houses have never been investigated. So I like going in there and collecting the evidence and just to see, if we can mark it off it, this is a legit deal. There's nothing happening here. And, it's to me, it's all about helping the people.
Oh yeah, that's something that I enjoy about just what I do in general,
Hmm.
talking with witnesses and things, even though I haven't had an experience with everything. And I'm thankful for that. I have talked to enough people that it's very rare for me to hear a story now that doesn't remind me of another story that I've heard at some point.
Hmm.
And being able to
Right.
tell that to a witness,
Hmm.
sometimes the relief that you see is worth it in general. Just be like, oh, okay. All right,
Yeah.
so I'm not crazy, or
Yeah,
whatever. No, you're not.
it's a lot of reaffirmation or reconfirming things. And I do apologize for leaving. I told my stupid lawn guys I work at the house during the afternoon. Don't rap on my back door. I had to remind the guy. So, anyways, sorry.
Mhm.
But what you guys do, you Heather personally and Small Town Monsters, and even what I do and Krista Duke, it reaffirms you hear a lot of stories, and a lot of them have a lot of same commonalities. And that's one of the reasons why I really do like putting out encounter stories from subscribers or people that call in or email me because it does reaffirm that you're not going crazy. I thought for about a year and a half I was going crazy, certainly with what I've seen. And growing up, I had a lot of experiences, as a lot of people know, with the paranormal and ghosts. I had haunted artifacts, and I was in my 20s, late mid 20s, and kind of was freaking me out. I seen shadow people in my house, and long story short, I had to take these artifacts out. When I took them out, the hauntings went away. And then, I put them in my garage, Heather, and spring cleaning in the garage, in the corner of my garage. I seen these shadow people in my garage, and this is back. I was thinking, holy cow, because we had like a psychic medium or somebody over. This is like when I was like 28, so I don't remember exactly the terminology of this person or what they were. And
Yeah.
that's when I really knew things were going on. And so when I hear a story or I tell someone's story, I don't discredit them or think you're full of it because I don't walk in those people's shoes and it needs to be told. And you know what it is too? It's great data points for all of us in this field, right?
Mhm.
People aren't making these things up. You can't get 100,000 people having the same type of experiences.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
We got about 5. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say there's a lot of freaky stuff out there. I do have a question, Heather. What are your, that you do the paranormal as well as, the cryptid type things. What you hear a lot of people who believe like all of that, the whole realm is all connected. What are your thoughts on that with UFOs, cryptids, ghosts, the whole 9 yards?
I think that is about the only way that we're going to figure it all out is to open it up
Hmm.
and see it all connected somehow.
Hmm.
Um, I've even in what little I've experienced, taking out all of the stories that I've heard, just a little bit that I've personally experienced, I don't see how you can fully understand everything without taking it all into account.
Sure.
And I still don't understand everything, not by a long shot, but I can't see how they're not connected in one way or another.
Hmm.
And I think the more that we work together, instead of dividing amongst the community and then between communities, the
Amen.
faster we'll have some answers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Absolutely. And you know what? Really quickly here. We're coming up on the 5-minute break now. We're not going anywhere. The show's going to end in another 40 minutes. But Heather does have another commitment with some projects she's working on. So we have to say goodbye to her for the first hour of the show. And I do appreciate you, Heather. Thank you. I got to have you back on for the full time allotted because I know
Oh,
you've got
yeah.
a lot more to share. So with that being said, where can people find you?
Okay. Well, you can follow along with any Small Town Monsters stuff on any social media, smalltownmonsters.com. For me, personally, you can follow me on Instagram. My handle is at Pagan Historian. Um, and I'll post updates about anything that I'm doing on there. So any writing projects or going to events or anything like that, it'll all be up there.
Awesome.
Yeah, great show, great hour. I want to have you back. I appreciate what you do. I really do, and your channel you're associated with, Small Town Monsters, is fantastic. I know you're busy. I do appreciate you taking the hour to sit with
Mhm.
us here today. Now, everybody, don't go nowhere. We're going to take our 5-minute break, and me and Krista do a little recap, and I got something cool that I want to tell you all about coming up very soon. Heather Moser, Small Town Monsters, and other things she's involved with. Thank you so much. We got to
Thank
be
you.
back. We got to take the break. I appreciate you, Heather. Thank you. We will be back in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
4 minutes to go, folks. 4 minutes. Three minutes. We're almost there. 2-minute warning, guys. 2-minute warning. One minute. 1 minute.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Brunch with Bigfoot, Mr. Rob, and Krista. That was a fabulous first hour with Heather Moser, Small Town Monsters. Everybody go to my YouTube page for this show because I have her link tree in there. You can go ahead and check her out on social media, plastered all over the place. So thank you to Heather for that. And also a big thank you to No, a.k.a. Rocky. I could tell with the butterflies that's always posted. Thank you for your super chats. The super chat is a great way to help support what we do here. I do appreciate that, Rocky, and to each and every single one of you that do provide that. More importantly, thanks for subscribing, sharing us out. It is most appreciated by BMR and the rest of our group. Speaking of our group, on Mondays, this Texas Front Porch. You can find Tex Mondays, 9 o'clock in the East. Tuesday, Van Buren Variety, 8 o'clock in the East. Beyond BMR. Yep, that's me. I'm on Tuesdays at 9 in the East. Jason McLean does something called Mysterious Library on Untold Radio AM on Tuesdays at 10. Check out Jason. Also subscribe to Jason McLean Questions Everything on YouTube. He no longer does the live show. He drops a lot of cool videos, him along with Donnie Cho. Speaking of Donnie Cho, I was on Donnie's show. He dropped the show last night. I recorded. We did a 2-hour show talking about rock and roll from the 80s and the 90s. That was a cool show. Go check out Donnie's show. Donnie Cho Says Stuff. And, of course, my buddy Duke. I don't know if he's still out in chat. Duke Sullivan, World Bigfoot Radio. Love you, Duke. Thursdays. Or, I always forget Wednesday for some reason. Well, that's Texas Front Porch. Danielle Diva, midnight. The Diva Dimension. Check it out. Thursday, Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, 1 o'clock in the East. The Blondes, the Booze, the Paranormal Podcast. Also tonight, 9 o'clock in the East. Check out the Blondes. You need more Blondes? You need some Woo with the Blondes? Well, you can get them Friday, 9 o'clock in the East. Please subscribe. The Blondes, the Booze, and the Woo Fridays nights. Saturday, Tex, Infamous Minds, 3 in the East. If you're into true crime, check out Tex. And, of course, Jessica Jones on Saturday. Spaced Out Radio, 10 of these Saturday and Sunday. She is the Cryptid Huntress. Go check her out and subscribe to her. With that being said, I'm going to bring up Krista. Hello, darling.
Hey.
How are you?
Here. I'm great.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I know Heather had other commitments. I was glad to get her for at least the hour. I'll have to have her back on
For
because
sure.
I tell you, it brought up a lot of things that resonated with me about artifacts,
Mhm.
haunted artifacts. The Bell Witch story, what they do on the
Oh, yeah.
channel, and it's funny that she's talking about it in Ohio. And Ohio is known for a lot of cryptids, and how it's so
Mhm.
funny how there's peaks and valleys, right? How
Yeah.
you might think you've seen a cryptid, let's just say. You might
Mhm.
hear the howls or whoops, and then all of a sudden it goes away for a year, and then it comes back full bloom.
Mhm.
And I get a lot of it. I get a lot of people tell me that. What's your thoughts on that? I know you're into cryptids now. You do some, and you're getting more and more adept at it. What do you think the reasoning is? I don't know that I subscribe to migration. I think that they have set up their areas, and I think they
Yeah.
visit
I
many areas throughout, not only in one state, but they migrate, I think, all over the states, and
Mhm.
they have their welcome areas, right?
Right. I would say that. Plus, I think it's getting more common, to come out. People are talking, there's people out there who listen and don't think people are crazy. So I think a lot of that is a reason too that you're hearing more about it. I think they've always been around. It's just, we're just now hearing more about all this stuff though.
And I just find it intriguing how they can be somewhere, and then that's the thing that I tell people. I'm not really a researcher, but I talk to researchers all the time. And to me, you got to find a spot or two, and you continue to investigate, you continue to
Mhm.
research it, even if you're getting nothing for weeks at a time, months at a
Right.
time. And even in the case that Heather was talking about, a year perhaps, because I think it's
Mhm.
the time. Then when you decide that, well, the spot's dried up, or there's nothing going on,
Sure.
then you move on, and you're probably
Mhm.
missing out because they know you're there.
Mhm.
These
Absolutely.
cryptids, Bigfoot, Dogman, whatever you're searching for, they know that you're there.
I believe that. I believe they do, and I believe they know your intentions, That's my opinion. I know the few times that I went out in the woods and I had some weird things happen and I can't deny that. And things that happened weren't on a paranormal level. I mean, we had some of that too, but it wasn't just a paranormal level. When you hear something surrounding you that's huge walking in the woods comes up to you right out of the light, and then you shine your light, there's nothing. However, you're the only one, you're the only team out there in the middle of the woods. How do you explain that stuff? And it sounds like a herd of elephants. It's not just your little squirrel and when the leaves are bare and so you have good visual, but there's nothing. Go figure. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny you said herd of elephants, because I did a story maybe last year about a group of campers. They're in the woods, a spot that they always camp, a campsite, and they were going here for 7, 8 years. It was their spot for the
Mhm.
family. And one night, so I'm reading this email, and the man told me that it sounded like a herd of elephants all of a sudden
Mhm.
started roaming and trampling through his campsite. It was late at night. They still
Yeah.
had the embers of the fire in their fire pit. And literally, this whatever it was that ran through here, the embers were smashed out, exhausted. I mean, there was, and you know how hard that is to set out an ember. I mean, unless you're gunning a
Right.
bunch of water on it. But
Sure.
they did their thing. But when you're camping, I don't think
Mhm.
you're gonna waste all your water to put out the ember. As long as you have a nice deep pit,
Right.
I think you're fine. So the next morning, well, they didn't leave their tents because they did not know what was going on, and it was dark. So the
Mhm.
next morning, when these folks woke up to investigate what the hell just transpired, there was all sorts of oversized human-like, as the person told me, footprints. You know, and
Yeah.
this person knew nothing about Bigfoot or cryptids, and
Mhm.
then it was looking, and they were very distinguished. It looked like a person. The guy
Yeah.
said, like Shaquille O'Neal. It's always been reported that Shaquille O'Neal has a 22-inch foot size, right? Or shoe size. But he said the weird thing is, who in the hell runs through a campsite at night And these prints, these tracks had toes.
Yeah.
So a naked foot
Right.
trampling out embers. Who puts their foot in a and there was a multitude that surrounded the camp. I thought it was very fascinating email I received. And so just begs that question.
Right. I don't know. We have a lot of unanswered questions, and I think the more we learn, the more questions we have, you know. That's just my opinion. I think Rob froze up. But yeah, most definitely I feel like, you know, the encounters, what I have had, you know, what I believe to be you know, cryptid, paranormal, whatever it is, I can't say. However, it just wasn't right. And I can't say for sure that it was a Bigfoot that was coming in or Dogman or whatever that time out there in the woods that I just mentioned about hearing something surrounding us. You know, I can't say, you know, because the whole place is also filled with ghosts. So, you know, was it a ghost? I don't know. I don't know. So we'll see. It's been some crazy stuff going out there. Anyway, I still think Rob's still froze up. We'll let him come back in here in just a minute. I'm gonna read through some of the chat. Let's see. Henry says, what I've learned, Bigfoot going around a popular summer lake, licking grills, then hunting deer in the fall, winter. So far, I'm looking for a cave or something like wood to keep them dry and safe. Could very well be, you know. I don't know. I've heard of them coming up, you know, right up to people's houses and even knocking on people's windows and stuff like that. So let's see. I'm trying to read through some of the comments here. We can go through.
Very effing annoying.
Sorry, I was reading through comments. I was just chatting. Just gonna
very annoying. Very annoying. I am, you know, I can't even comment on this anymore, Krista.
Well, Danny just says Rob always freezes up. It's his trademark.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Yeah. Thank you for that, Danny. It's not a trademark
Yeah.
I'm proud of. Hey, listen, my equipment's fine.
Are you sure you don't have any paranormal weirdness going on?
You know, it just happens.
I'm saying.
It just happens once.
I know, out of the blue.
It just you know, and I think it might be my camera. I think it's taking a crap on me. But then again, but here's the funny thing: if anybody in chat can help me out, set a comment, because I don't use Wi-Fi. This whole system I use is dedicated into the back of my router.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not set up on Wi-Fi. This is integrated right into the wall. So I'm miffed by it because it happens probably once a show to last, I'm saying, month. I'm not going to buy a new computer. This is brand new, a year or 8 months ago. Two things I think I have to consider: new cable company, or maybe it is the older camera. But the camera is old, only a year old, if that. So very frustrating. But with that being said,
yeah, I was just BSing with them. I was just
you know,
gathering.
that's the thing, because I know, you know, I can leave you on an island and take care of everything. I get it. You know, it was a fantastic. I got to tell you, since we're here, I do have to say the good old BMR's book is finally coming out at the end of this week. It'll be on Amazon. I don't have a link, but I got to tell you, I'm pretty proud of this cover. I'm gonna put my cover. I'm gonna show the people. I'll give you a little advanced peek of my book cover. That's done, and it should be published here in the next couple of days. And I'd like everybody to check it out because Jason McLean did it, and I think it's pretty cool. So I'm gonna pop that up real quick.
Yeah, I think he did a great job.
Yeah, here we go. From good old BMR, coming out soon. I gotta take down the banner. Everybody knows that Super Chat's open. Look at that. Coming soon, Bigfoot Michigan Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters Book 1.
I think it looks fantastic.
You know, I like it. Jason is a great artist.
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty happy with that. It's been a long time coming, about a year.
Yeah.
So I will have that out, and when it comes out, everybody, I will put a link in Facebook and on YouTube. But I liked it. Doesn't that cover pop?
It does. It does. He did a great job. I'm telling you.
Yeah, he
Jason,
did.
Jason rocks.
And then, of course, I had to, incorporate my picture on the back. That's the back of the book.
Mhm.
And I did some marketing. I said, a lot of people put out books, and hell, I got a YouTube channel. I might as well promote that to the masses as well.
Absolutely.
Something natural, perhaps not so natural, lurks in the abundant wilderness of state and national parks of North America and beyond. Whether hiking, camping, fishing, hunting, or just taking a relaxing day's walk through nature, many people have life-changing encounters with strange creatures in the forest. This book will explore true and accurate eyewitness accounts of Sasquatch, Dogman, and a few other mysterious entities. All the testimonials and stories have been provided in complete anonymity to the author over the years, serving as therapy and perhaps even closure to their traumatic experiences. Many of the stories found in this book are terrifying, eye-opening, sad, and in some cases gratifying. Come with us and ask, are we not alone in the forest? And, there's a reason why I did that. We were on the back of the book because this book is really dedicated to the people that have sent in their stories. And, I agree with that because I was that person out there. And that's really why I put this out, to get these stories
Mhm.
out from people because as Duke, if he's still in chat, he knows what
Mhm.
a bad time I had for the longest time.
Yeah.
And so that's why I really did that, to let other people that don't want to, and all these stories are from people, Krista, that don't want to come forward, right?
Yeah.
And so I've done a lot of these in video form. And, of course, I wrote the entire book, but the thing about it is, some of these stories I had to add in the descriptive to talk about the
Sure.
nature and everything around it, but, to make it worth reading. And so I'm pretty proud of that. I don't expect
Should be.
to make money or anything. It's just something I always wanted to do. And I
Mhm.
think that the people that provided these stories, a shout out to them because it's,
Mhm.
I feel I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
My next book is going to be about my personal adventures in life from the age of 5 through current. And I'm working on that already. So they'll be
Oh,
coming out probably next year. So I'm pretty happy, and I had to plug that, and you guys will find all the links for that eventually when
yeah.
it hits Amazon. So
Yeah. I'm going to need a signed copy though.
well,
I
I
like
just
my books personalized. Whenever I get
I'll
a
get
book
for
from
you.
an author, it's got to be
I
personalized.
will personally authorize. I'll sign it. I'll give a write up on it.
Yep. You better.
I will. No, there's a certain select few that I will send it to them for free.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just I'm starting to get quite a collection of books, and every one of them I get them
Well,
signed.
I tell you what, I've gotten a book over here in the corner. I've got a bunch of books. William Lunsford sent me a book, and I just started it. Again, I've got like 15
Mhm.
books I'm looking at that I've either bought, and a lot of people have sent me books, believe it or not.
Mhm.
And I'll probably read them more so in the fall because you know how it is doing this, and we have everyday life events.
Yeah.
There's so many. I started reading William Lunsford's book,
Mhm. I
and
haven't read
it's
that one yet.
that is, oh God, it's. I'm gonna have him back on. I'm gonna do a book review with him probably in a couple months because I really of all the books, and this is from the heart. This is all experiences. So shout out to William. You can find William on Amazon. There's a link somewhere on the William Lunsford show that I did with him not too long ago. So
Yeah, I don't have that book yet, but I'm gonna see him next month, so I'm gonna get a book from him for sure.
yeah,
You know,
and,
you
and
know.
and really quickly, before I forget, Krista, a good friend of the show, a good friend of mine, Andrew.
Mhm.
BMR, I share my stuff in paranormal encounters as a professional trucker. You can't make this crap up. And you know what? You can't. And coming from over the I guess you call it over the road trucker like Andrew
Mhm.
does, which I respect that job. Thank you, Andrew, for your work. Man, that's you can't make this stuff up.
Yep. And Paradox Fossil says that we're neighbors, and we sure are. Maybe we'll meet up one day, Paradox.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Chris, I cut you off a little bit. You were saying something?
No, I was gonna say, your book, you talked about the encounters and stuff, and in the last couple nights, so Martin Grove gave me a copy of his latest book, and so at night before I go to bed, I've been reading them, but I got to tell you, I've had to put it down because like they're scary.
Yeah.
And
I have to
going
get here.
I can watch a horror flick and go to sleep, but I'm reading these encounters in this book, so I'm a little nervous about yours too. Do I read it before bed, or is it something in the morning or
Oh,
daytime?
just you'll have the comfort that it was penned by BMR, so you can have that comforting thought in the back of your mind. I tell you what, I got to get Martin Groves on the show. That slippery devil keeps avoiding me, and I mean, if he's listening, I
He
mean
is
that with all
awesome.
due respect.
I
I've
adore that man.
I got to get that book. I follow him. I look up his stuff, and I need him on because that'd be a hell of a show. Because what he has to say is really it's really out there. I mean, and out there in a way that I mean,
Yeah,
hey, it's just riveting.
it is. It absolutely is. He's tells quite the encounter.
Oh, and I do have to.
Through.
He does, and Duke. Everyone subscribe to World Bigfoot Radio. I seen his. I'm going to share this. I've yet to do it, Duke, for you, but I got the link set up. Duke did a cool little teaser of eventually finding Bigfoot Part 1. He does a pretty cool promo. Yesterday he dropped it, which was pretty fun. And Duke, if you guys haven't subscribed to Duke, he's got a lot of great stories, great shows, great guests. Thanks, Duke, for that. And yeah, so go check out Duke.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, I'll check it out myself.
So, what type of good? So, you're at the Gatlinburg conference, and I don't think you've talked about that live anywhere. So, how did that work? Was that meet a lot of cool people? Hear a lot of cool stories?
I did. I met a lot of great people. Several people that's in our chat. That's always great. So now I can put faces with names. So that was awesome. And then just hanging out with friends. I did meet Heather Moser. She is just as sweet as can be. And yeah, it was a lot, good friends and Bigfoot. What else could you ask for?
Good friends, Bigfoot stories, cryptid stories, and now paranormal. I mean, I love it all, man. It's just and the thing that Heather alluded to, and then we had to cut her short. Again, I think all these things there's a link, there's a connection with everything, right? There really is. Yeah.
Andrew says Gatlinburg, Tennessee, Pigeon Forge, Sevierville area. The conference was in Gatlinburg, but we all stayed in Sevierville. We rented a house. So we had fun in the evenings after the conference.
For those that don't know Krista and Brandy, they do travel. They travel more this past year than I have in 5. They do it in style. They don't stay at the Holiday Inn or the Super 8 motel. They get what's that called? Airbus B&B. They get a nice house in the middle of the woods. I mean, they do it because when
it wasn't in the middle of the woods. I tell you what,
a lot of yours are in some areas, though. Correct? I mean, you're not far from where you can look for cryptids.
Right. This house happened to be. So let me tell you a story about that.
Yeah.
We had there's several of us that split the house. So it was Brandy and myself. Bart and Letitia Nunley were there. They stayed. Our friend Anna and her husband Kevin. And then Nana Boss, she came up and went with me. And then Robbie Raines from DAX Machina show. Excuse me. So we all stayed there together. And then we had friends from Relic Films, Greg Ogles and Brett and Janice. Everybody kind of hung out. So this house, I get a text from Brandy. She beat us there. She said, this house is in the hood. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. The reviews were great, and it was. And it's very, very nice, modern day, updated house. And so when we were pulling in, I'm looking around, I'm like, okay, maybe Brandy was right. We were in the hood of Seaverville. Yeah, like it just rundown houses all around us. And the house we stayed in was fantastic. I mean, they clean, updated, very, very nice. And the reviews, like I said, I always read the reviews. They were great. Just nobody mentioned that it was in the hood of Seaverville, Tennessee.
So you had a beautiful house in the middle of the hood, surrounded by burnt down, dilapidated homes.
It wasn't really burnt down, but they weren't the prettiest out there.
Now, were you?
Oh, Rob's freezing again. So just to let everybody know, it was a great weekend. It was a great trip. Met some fantastic people, I got to tell you, and spent it with friends. We had a booth, and
Am I freezing still?
You're freezing, Rob.
Hey, I'm back. Look at that. Am I back?
Okay. Oh, you came back.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't get this, Chris. It's very.
I don't either. I was just telling about the conference.
I could hear you. You talk about frustration. I can't. I don't even want to talk. I have no idea.
Yeah.
So I have to get with our tech troll Randy.
Yeah.
Or if anybody in chat knows anything, because I'm plugged right in. I'm not running the Wi-Fi, and it says plug into a Wi-Fi outlet. It says right here, plug into an integrated circuit or something like that. I could,
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know. Maybe it's this camera. Maybe the camera is taking. I got a good computer, a lot of juice, a lot of memory, so I don't get it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at my router and it's fine. So I just don't get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have no idea, Anyway, but make a long story short, the Bigfoot conference was great. We had Barton Nunley and Martin Groves was next to us, and they were selling books and signing books. And then Blondes we shared with Relic Films, Greg Ogles and his group, and Robbie Range from DA Ex Machina, and DA had a few books put out there. So it was just, it was great just hanging out with friends. It really was. And meeting new people.
I will tell you this. I love going to conferences. And the reason I went on this year, I took a hiatus. I'm going to hit that probably next year. What I loved the most was when I went to Alabama, I went to Texas, and for me, what was really cool was when people that I'd be walking through the conference area. We had a table set up because I went with Tex, and we had a table set up. So I'm walking around doing my thing. Well, the coolest thing, I see somebody staring at me. I'm like, okay. Then they come up, BMR. I'm like, yeah, I'm so and so. Yeah, I subscribe to you. I watch all your shows, and they give me their YouTube handle. Now you put the face to the person, in chat. Yeah. I mean, that to me is just cool. It's people come up to you, they know who you are and stuff. And so it's a little humbling, Yeah. And it's so cool just to talk. And these people are so genuine. Like the people that I have in our chat, my chat, your chat, Texas chat, they're all so humble people.
They're the
great
best.
People. We have no trolls. We have no problems in our or drama in our chat rooms ever, like some other shows might have, And so everybody, it's a nice, safe place to come to here. And so really everybody listening, I appreciate all you guys because I do this for you guys. And again, I do it for myself. I'm not going to lie, but the fans, the audience, however you want to call it, are just totally awesome in our chat rooms. And of course, and we got a lot of great people, Krista, that don't go in chat, but they watch, they listen, they send comments. Yeah. So that's, again, kudos to you guys. I appreciate you folks as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I know you're not going to the Dogman conference, but you will. I wish you were, but I understand why you're not. So I won't give you too much hard time about it.
Yeah. That's one that I was really looking forward to, but Labor Day weekend, I've been doing something for 30 years. Hey, Amber.
I get it. Totally
Yeah.
get it.
So, but to
Yeah.
me, it's like, and listen, this is no knock on anybody who has a conference on Labor Day weekend. But you
Mhm.
know, and just like people knock us, okay, we do a fantasy football draft on Labor Day weekend, but we established this 30 years ago.
Sure.
So it's known to everybody. But man, having an event on Labor Day weekend, it's like a lot of people, a lot of times that's when the families do get together, right? Especially if you had members of the war, veterans, you know.
Mhm.
So to me, it's kind of, and I'm not knocking the day. It's not me, but to me, inconvenient is probably the best word to say it.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, it happens, So next one, maybe you'll be able to come to.
Oh yeah, well, if it's not Labor Day, well, regardless of that, I'll be making the round. In fact, that Tennessee one, if they do it again, I want to go to that one. That was pretty cool.
Hmm.
There's so many people I got to meet, like Duke. Duke wants me to come out out in the woods with him, and he goes to Nebraska quite a bit. So there's just
Hmm.
so many friends that I have, and so many different things I need to do. That
Sure.
man, it's like give me $1,000,000, and I go to every single one of them.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's keeps us busy, that's for sure. And we ended up the one we were supposed to do this weekend. We canceled. So, well,
Yeah.
we didn't cancel, but it kind of that portion of it got canceled. And I just, after last weekend, I'm still on that paranormal low. I got to get myself back up. So I'm kind of glad, honestly, that I get to stay home this weekend.
Yeah, try to enjoy some of the summer at the good old homestead.
Yeah,
For a little bit.
I'm home for 5 weeks. Then is the Dogman conference. Then I'll be
Okay.
gone from Thursday to Tuesday. So
Tuesday?
yeah, I'll probably take it 2 days to come home, not rush it.
But you're going Tuesday. The
I'm
conference is
leaving.
on Saturday.
It's Friday.
Friday,
So
Saturday, Sunday?
Letitia Nunnally's riding with me, and we are leaving out of St. Louis area on Thursday. And then we're meeting up in Texarkana, and we've got a little side trip that we'll let everybody know about. We're doing Friday morning, and then from there, the conference is only 3 hours away. So, and that starts that Friday evening.
Okay,
So,
cool. So yeah,
yeah.
that's a big one. And then you got anything after that? Then you take a little lull after that conference?
Little lull, and then October I'm gonna go hang out with Bart and Letitia. There's another conference over in Tennessee. We're not gonna be vendors or anything. I'm just gonna go over and hang out with them. So yeah, and then there's another one I think I got in St. Louis. It's a horror one.
Oh, and I can do a horror one too.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we have a few things set up.
Very nice. What do you got going on tonight?
Tonight we have Carter Bouchard.
Oh, Carter, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be talking a little bit of woo with Bigfoot tonight. I already know what that show's gonna be all about.
Yeah, we'll be in the woo.
I'm gonna miss probably a little bit of that because I'm on the Ray Voss show tonight. Don't know who that is. They invited me on his show, so we're gonna find out tonight.
Cool.
The Ray Voss podcast. Yeah,
you said it starts before ours.
Yeah, it's at 8:30. I don't know. I think it goes an hour, and then I'll jump on over because I do dig me some Carter. I missed him in Las Vegas because I wanted to take his ass in poker. He was in the World Series of Poker tournament. I guess he's a pretty good poker player.
Very cool.
So tell him I said.
And I'll catch what I can before we.
Yeah, let me see what I can do. Yeah, I don't even know where. Yeah, I gotta look that up a little later.
Okay.
So with that being said, I do appreciate everybody coming on. Thank you to Rocky the new handle for that $50 super chat. I do.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate that. Thanks to Lily Pond and Rocky for their awesome moderating and sending out all the links. Thanks to Duke Sullivan popping on in and all the rest of you, all my good friends and people that help make the show what it is. And without
you, I
answer
would one question real quick?
You can, yes.
Okay. Scott's Life and Interest asks, what other investigations do you have set up during the conference, Krista? We have something going on. It'd be that Friday morning, and I will let everybody know. We might go live from where we're at if we get service and
yeah.
And just at the conference itself, we'll be doing some lives and stuff, you know.
And I do have to say this, Krista. That reminded me, Krista. The Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast. Subscribe, and I got to tell you, they do great shows throughout the week. But what I really love is Krista and Brandy when they go to conferences or when they go do investigations. I got to tell you, they do the live show from a lot of their areas where you're investigating.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing more, to me anyway, there's nothing more fascinating than a live show in a creepy, haunted house or building or wooded area.
Yep.
And I just love those. So everybody should subscribe to them because I love those shows you guys do.
The one thing on my to-do list is, since the conference is in Fort Worth, I do want to go check out that Lake Worth monster. And I was told it's only like 20 minutes away from where we're going to be at. So that's on our to-do list.
That's awesome. And that's why another reason everyone should subscribe to the Booze, because these girls, they are totally boots on the ground. I mean, they don't just talk and have shows. They literally investigate. And you guys, I love you guys. I really do, because you're always out there. You're always out there. And with that being said, thanks everybody for coming on in again. Thanks again to No/Rocky for that super chat. And please share us out. Make sure the alert bells are on and make sure you are subscribed, because once again, I've been noticing it, you guys. Alert bells are taken off. Subscriptions have been canceled. Revisit that if you would. And because I do appreciate that, because a lot of people out there are really kind of pissed that, hey, Rob, I was subscribed for so long. I just found out I wasn't subscribed. I thought you were off the air. When I hear stuff like that, they kind of tease me off, a little bit. So
exactly.
So
and to unsubscribe to somebody on YouTube, it's not just that simple. You know what I'm saying?
No, I mean,
I've YouTube. It's doing this. It does this to a lot of.
That's a great point. I'm subscribed. I probably have subscribed to 100 different channels.
Me too.
Maybe I watch 5, but I don't go in and unsubscribe from somebody.
Neither.
Even if I don't watch them. Once I subscribe, I forget about it. So that's a weird thing. That's a weird thing.
It is. And so just everybody out there, make sure you're still subscribed to your favorite channels. Check that and make sure your notifications are on.
Absolutely. I do appreciate that. Thanks again, once again, to everybody. So until next time, for Krista, it's BMR, and we're out.
See ya.